Monday, August the 14th, 2023. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Ingert.
Present.
Councilmember Forster.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we start our regular proceedings, I would like us to all take a moment of silence at this point for Officer Jonah Oswald. He was an officer that was shot and killed in the line of duty last Tuesday. A young man with only 4 years of experience as a police officer with the city of Fairway. Had 2 children and a wife he leaves behind. A 72nd officer killed in the line of duty in the United States this year. So if you'd all please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, and please keep Jonah's family and his fellow officers from Fairway in your thoughts and prayers. We have no presentations and awards this evening. We have no personal appearances on the agenda, so I'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report for Development Services.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, in your packet this evening was a department report for the month of July. Just a couple things to highlight. We did have 10 permits issued in the month of July, so a little bit of an uptick from the past 2 months in terms of building activity. Inspection-wise, there is a lot going on with the Commerce Center still. Southern Glazers, a lot of, I would say, technical inspections going on with their conveyor systems and material handling equipment. They are on track to be halfway operational by the end of this year, so they'll start receiving more product into their building by, I think, November or December of this year, which is exciting. And then the Newly project as well is moving full steam ahead. The landlord work on that project is wrapping up, and they've started some pretty significant tenant finish work on the inside of that building as well. So a lot of inspections going on down there. A couple things in terms of activity in the department I also wanted to highlight. We did have a few ribbon cuttings in the month of July. So Sunrise Nursing Care had a ribbon cutting. They had a little bit of a refresh in their building, so they held a ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce there for their facility in Raymore. And then also Elite Fence and Deck, which redid a building there at 611 East Walnut. They are substantially complete with their building. They've got some landscaping left to do once we get out of kind of the hot, dry, I wouldn't say dry since it's rained a lot, but the hot part of this year, so they'll finish their landscaping towards the end of next month with that building, but they have moved in and are fully operational outside of that building as of last month. That will conclude my staff report.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Gress? Yes, Ms. Forster.
Elite Fence building looks phenomenal, but I was just curious. I know they had a fence requirement, but it seems like the material is higher than the fence. Is that, or do we care about that? Is there a code in regards to where the product has to stay below the fence line? Or? So
there's not necessarily a code on what can be stacked above the fence. The height requirement is 6 feet. That's as high as the code allows the fence to go. I did talk with him about that, and what you see generally sticking up above the fence is like their staging area for what is going to go out that day. So it's not really intended to be there long term. They just kind of compile that in that area to set it up and get their shipments ready for the next day or so's worth of work.
And Mr. Fearborn, I know that Mr. Crass, or there's not a member here from Public Works, but can you give us an update on Prairie Lane and 58? First day of school is the 22nd. I've heard the 21st is a target open date.
That is
Are we
correct.
still on?
That is the target open date right now.
All right. We haven't heard anything from MOPUB, though, officially.
They'll never say anything officially because of the weather, sir.
Yeah, I know. All right. Thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Gress? Okay. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Grass. Next presentation is supposed to be from Captain Mayberry. I'm going to usurp that presentation for just a moment this evening. On March 18th, 1986, Roger Mayberry became a full-time Raymore police officer. That was 37 years, 149 days ago. 13,654 days serving the city of Raymore. In 11 days, he's retiring. He was promoted to sergeant in August of 1996. He was promoted to lieutenant in December of 1997. Finally, he was promoted to captain in November of 2001. He has served 3 times as acting chief for extended periods of time, including when our own mayor was on active duty. That is Captain Mayberry's service record. It would be impossible to outline his record of service to this city. There just simply isn't enough time. He has been and is a true public servant to all of us. He believes in this city and in our citizens. He believes in the mission of the Raymore Police Department and the people he leads and works beside. Captain Mayberry has been a quiet and calm leader in a place that has its daily share of problems and crises. He is a true collaborator and a problem solver. He has been an advisor, a mentor, and a friend to so many people over the years, including myself. Raymore is a better place because of his service. I know the council joins me in thanking him for all he has done for this city and for all of our citizens for so many years, and we wish him the best of life as he enters a new chapter. Thank you, Captain Mayberry. Now I'm going to ask him to actually give a report.
I'm not sure how to follow that. Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you all for recognizing that. I appreciate it. It's been a long time, but shorter than you think. It gets here before you know it. So, at any rate, my presentation tonight has to do with school safety. As most of you are aware, as Mayor Turnbow had said, school starts August 22nd, next Tuesday. Because of that, we expect an increase in pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, and of course, vehicular traffic in the form of private vehicles and school buses. And we will see a small preview of what's to come, even though school starts on the 22nd. We will see something this Friday, the 18th. All of the kindergarten classes, the 6th grade classes, and the 9th grade center are all having a preview day for incoming students. This is a half-day orientation that begins in the morning. It's my understanding that school buses will run as normal, so we'll get a glimpse of what's to come for the following Tuesday. For our part, we're going to be monitoring the traffic situation at the various schools, and as we've done in the past, we will have officers conducting traffic enforcement in the school zones. We're just asking that everyone be watchful, be vigilant, and help us get the kids to and from school as safely as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Captain Mayberry? I know they're having a little get-together for you next Friday, week from Friday, the
Yes.
25th.
Yes.
And so if you have anything special you'd like to provide the captain on his last day with the city, we'll all be there to celebrate that. There'll be informal presentations at 4:30, or what time was it?
4 o'clock.
I thought it was 4 o'clock,
4 o'clock?
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I couldn't remember from the invite. All right. Anyway, thank you, Roger.
Thank you all
You're
very
a
much.
good friend. All right. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Captain. Just a reminder to the council that next week, August 21st, is the presentation of the city manager's proposed budget to the council. One of my favorite nights of the year. That concludes staff reports, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Fearborn? Hearing none, we have no committee reports tonight. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have several items on the consent agenda, and I'd entertain a motion to dispose of that item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, including item A, City Council meeting minutes from July 24th, 2023. Item B, the 2022 sidewalk gap acceptance and final payment. Item C, 2022 curb ramp repair replacement acceptance and final payment. And item D, West Hawk Ridge Park improvements, acceptance, and final payment.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. The motion been made and seconded to approve 4 items on the consent agenda this evening. Any further discussion? Mrs. Forster.
I just wanted to say that I reviewed the YouTube video of the meeting, so I will be voting tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else have any input this time? All right. All those in favor of the motion? 7 yes. Any opposed? Abstentions? And 1 abstention. Motion carries 7 yes, 1 abstention. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3835 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3835 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, vacating portions of the rear yard utility easement located on Lot 416 in the West Brook at Creekmore 15th Plat, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I move that we approve Bill 3835, 1111, Hillswick Lane easement vacation.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3835. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3833 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3833 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, establishing a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials and candidates for elective offices.
If there are no further questions on this item, entertain a motion to dispose of it.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I move that we approve Bill 3833, financial disclosure ordinance.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3833. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3836 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3836 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a non-residential contributor sewer service contract with Urban SR LLC, DBA Newly, pursuant to Section 710.350 of the City Code.
Since this is fairly complicated, we had several people absent at the last meeting. I'd ask if there are any questions on this item before I ask for a motion. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I move that we approve Bill 3836, non-residential contributor sewer service contract for Newly.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3836. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3837 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3837 by title only, an ordinance pursuant to Section 67.110 of the Revised Statutes of Missouri, levying general and special taxes in the City of Raymore, Missouri for the year 2023.
Thank you, ma'am. This motion requires, or this issue requires a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Ms. Williams to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Before you this evening for your consideration is the 2023 tax levy. Each year, the city is required by the state auditor's office to calculate and set our tax levy. The requirement must be recorded with the county clerk no later than September 1st. In odd-numbered years, the assessor's office assesses properties to account for changes in value. In the even-numbered year, the assessed valuation may increase based on new construction. The basic theory of the Hancock Amendment is that the city revenue from property tax in the general fund and the park fund should be revenue neutral from year to year for non-growth related increases in assessments. This means that typically as assessments from non-growth increase, then the levy decreases. The opposite is true when assessed values decrease. There is an allowance for inflation, and this year that rate is 6.5% and is provided to us by the state auditor's office. It should be noted that our overall levy for 2023 will decrease. The general fund levy for 2023 is calculated to be 39 and 49 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. That's written out .3949. The park fund levy is calculated to be 10 and 63 cents per $100 of assessed valuation, or .1063. The debt service levy is the same as the last several years, at 71 and 70 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. That's .7170. That's due to a voluntary rollback. The total tax levy is recommended, the total city tax levy is recommended to be 1.2182, which is $1.2182 in total. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions of Ms. Williams? Mr. Holman?
Couple of check for understanding. So, assessment year by the county assessor, correct?
Correct.
Some people's properties probably went up in value, correct?
That's correct.
We rolled back the levy, AKA no raise in taxes, and we did that last year as well. Is that correct?
Last year, our levy actually stayed exactly the same
Stayed the
as the prior
same
year.
last year. We rolled it back this year. That's the proposal to us at this time, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions at this time? Okay, I'll open it up to the floor. If anyone from the public would like to address the council on the 2023 tax levy, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one come forward, I will ask Mr. Fearborn if there's anything else he'd like to add to this particular item.
I once again asked Ms. Williams if she would please express this in mils, but she again, as last year, refused to do it. No comments.
All right. Since there's nothing further, I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3837, setting the 2023 tax levy.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3837. Any further discussion? Mr. Holman.
One more question. Mr. Fearborn can probably answer this. So, state law allowed us to get the inflation increase, which was pretty high this year, wasn't it? 6.8, 6.5, something like that?
Actually, and I'll be making a presentation on this on Monday night. The assessed valuation actually went up about 10.5%. Inflation, as listed by the state auditor on the same form, as you see in here, was just over 6%. And then there's this artificial number in there that is just randomly chosen, but has been in place for at least 5 years now, of 5%. And we are only allowed the ceiling of the lower of those three numbers. So while our assessed valuation grew 10.5%, we're only allowed to, we are capped at the 5% as far as our growth factor is concerned within this. So, again, Hancock has a number of ways of assuring the citizens that their taxes aren't going to go up, and that is a subtlety within the formula that a lot of people don't realize.
And we're not actually asking for that 5%, is that correct?
No, we're asking for
Just the lower amount.
calculation is the 5% rather than the 10.5%.
Rather
that
than
it
the
could
larger
be.
amount. Yes, sir, thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3834 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3834 by title only, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for a commercial development project and a development and performance agreement between the City of Raymore, Missouri and Timber Trails Land Partners, LLC for the purpose of providing funds to pay the costs of improving a commercial development project in the city and authorizing certain agreements and other actions by the city.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Ms. Lee to make the staff report on this item,
Okay.
to begin the staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Timber Trails Land Partners, on behalf of Griffin and Riley Property Group, is pursuing a multifamily residential complex, apartment complex, retail center, and premium hotel located west of Dean Avenue, south of Walmart. The developer has requested Chapter 100 bonds for the multifamily residential and property tax abatement on the retail center to assist in financing the project. Here in attendance tonight, in addition to city representatives, is Sid Douglas with Gilmore and Bell, the city's economic development legal counsel. He will be making a presentation this evening on behalf of the city relative to this request. The developer is here to make comments on the project as well. Mr. Douglas.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. You've heard an overview of the project, and you've had some discussions about the details of the project in the past, so I won't get into those with you this evening. I'm primarily going to be focusing on the incentives that are being provided here. And unlike a lot of the projects that I've come to talk to you about, this is not one that has a significant amount of property tax abatement, which is good news I'm sure you'll all like to hear. There are three elements of the project. There's the apartment projects, there's expected to be a premium hotel and some retail development of about 13,560 square feet. The apartments and the retail development are required to go in together at the first part of the development, and that's expected to occur within the first 2 years after our approval this evening. The premium hotel is, the developer has been given up to 4 years to attract that. It has to be a flag or a brand that's acceptable to the city. In the event that within that time period that a premium hotel cannot be identified that's acceptable to the developer and to the city, they may convert that portion of the development to commercial retail development, and is expected to be another 25,000 square feet of development. The apartment project is designed to where there's not really any abatement, but they're trying to fix the amount of the property taxes that are being paid with an inflationary factor that occurs every other year with assessments. There was consultation between the developer, the city, and the county to come up with an approximate fair market value of those units, and that will be used for purposes of determining a payment in lieu of tax for the apartment project. On the hotel, there's no property tax abatement expected for that. There is sales tax exemption on those construction materials, much like for the apartment as well as the other retail development. The hotel, as I said, if they can't agree upon a brand or a flag for that could be converted to commercial retail development. Any of the retail development is set up so that a maximum tax abatement that can be obtained is 50% of the property taxes to be paid, but that'll be phased in increments of anywhere from 25, 35 up to the 50%, and that would depend upon them providing retailers in the retail development that is generating retail sales per square foot of $300 per square foot. So as they get to 50% of the retail target, so it's 13,560 square feet times $300 per square foot. That is a little over $4 million. So it's not that each individual retailer has to generate $300 per square foot, but they have equal the equivalent of that over the entire development. So you could have one retailer that's generating $500 per square foot and another that might be $250 per square foot, but you could still meet that target. So hopefully that makes sense. But we start off with 25% abatement, and then once they get 50% of the retail that's generating those targets, they get 35% abatement, and they get 75% of the retail development meeting that target, then they get 50% of the abatement that's been shown in the plan. The overall sales tax exemption that's expected with the hotel complex would result in about $1 million benefit to the developer, If the hotel does not occur and it's expected to be commercial and retail, the sales tax exemption on construction materials would amount to just about $900,000. As I said, mostly this is not as nearly as significant a tax abatement as you've seen in the past. Overall property taxes expect to be realized from the development are expected to be about $22 million. Payment in lieu of taxes would be about $20 million, so there's only about $2 million of property tax abatement expected over the 25 years after the project is completed. The apartments do have a similar tenant program that we've used for our other apartment projects. So members of the Chamber of Commerce, first responders, and teachers that work at the school district are entitled to a one-time $300 rebate for rent payments there at the project. I don't have anything else to present at this time. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Any questions, Mr. Douglas? Hearing none. Thank you, Sid. Appreciate you. Mr. Fearborn, anything else?
Not at this time, sir. The applicant is here this evening, and I know that they would like to make a presentation.
Sure. Yep. We'll open it up to them at this point.
And as they're working their way up, I'm going to take over the council's computers. There is a slideshow that the developer has put together this evening.
Okay.
So give me one moment and I will put that up on your screens.
Good evening, Mayor. Councilor Kirk Peterson with Pulcinelli here on behalf of the applicant, and Jake Lovelace from Griffin Riley is behind me. The expectation was just set that I'm going to give you a presentation from the PowerPoint to Mr. Fairborn, but I will tell you, following Mr. Douglas and Jordan, I really think we've been able to, let me say this, we would stay here all night if you have a lot of questions for us, but we've been in front of you. I know I got started just over a year ago with looking at most of you, and we had some good sessions. We've worked with Mr. Fairborn and staff for, it's just last summer, so about a year. Mr. Fairborn is tough, I'll tell you that, and I mean serious. I'm looking over at him. That was a lot. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, everything that Mr. Douglas just spit out, can you imagine negotiating all that? But I say it with a smile on my face. We're very happy. We hope for your support tonight in that second reading. There's a lot of details here, but in terms of affirmative presentation, my long way after thanking Mr. Fairborn and staff for all the hard work is, if you have anything you want to talk about, we're here to talk to you about it, but I don't think there's anything affirmatively, Mayor, that at this point we want to offer. We just want to be here for you.
Okay.
Questions.
All right. Did you want to go through the presentation at all?
I really brought it. I probably didn't articulate this well to staff. I brought it just in case, so we'd be prepared with pictures if you said, well, what about this? And we can go point at it. But honestly, Mayor, I really think everybody has had all the materials and everything, so I'd rather be responsive to you.
All right, Kurt. Well, then I'll just ask, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Peterson while he's up there? Yes, Mr. Baker.
Last time you were here, I think it was brought up by that where was already a commercial development, and there's an exit going on the Dean. I think the question was, is this a right-in, right-out exit? With the influx of traffic coming to Dean, have we made a decision on the
Well, I'll just say the developer's perspective, and then professional staff can give their perspective. So the short version is that direct access from Dean to our commercial is still of paramount importance to us, trying to pull off this 12,000 feet of retail. But we respect a process we're going through that Mr. Fairborn has spearheaded, which is with Public Works. We are working on an updated traffic study right now that will make sure that access point would be safe. And I understand from the stipulation previously that'll be a final, I'll be corrected, but a final development plan issue, so not a tonight issue, but something that will be worked out with staff and ultimately this body at final development plan.
Okay.
What we are working on with the developer at this time, as the council is well aware, we have recently completed Wilson and Company completed an extensive traffic study of the Dean Avenue corridor and down 58 all the way to Peace Drive. We are asking Wilson to amend that study in light of this holistically looking at this entire development, not just the retail component on the front end, but what traffic can we expect to be developed with an apartment complex in there and a hotel in there and everything that the developer is proposing. We think that using the original study and amending it would probably be the best course of action. So that's been our first pass. And that would be a future agreement that we would have to come to within the development agreement.
Ms. Forster?
And I just wanted to confirm, I believe I saw this in the last meeting, that the school and the fire, we talked with them and they're on board. They have no complaints, not that they're necessarily on board, but
Right.
they're comfortable with
Had a
this.
number of very good conversations with the superintendent of schools on this project.
Thank you.
Mr. Townsend, do you have something?
I did, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Would that study that Wilson's will be doing, would that also include the outer road on the west side? Would that be in addition to that?
Different study being done by the developer in conjunction with MoDOT.
Okay. Because I believe there was a interest on that side as well, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Comment? Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate you. Does staff have anything to add to this at this point?
Just for the sake of the public, the council has heard it in work session, but for the sake of the public, as Mr. Peterson had indicated and Mr. Douglas had indicated, there is a significantly different tax abatement structure associated with this one, and very, very specifically, the county assessor and the city and the developer all came together, and the starting point of this is full, as if it was not on an abatement structure. Rather, if it was being fully assessed at full build out, that is the starting point so they're being fully assessed, basically. And that's the taxes that the developer will be paying. The incentive that we are giving is a set increase in that assessed value every 2 years when assessments would normally go through. So that the developer knows exactly what he's going to be paying to all of the taxing jurisdictions in future years. And that structure is a 1.5% increase. And he is locked into that 1.5% increase, even if there was an odd year for us, of course, would be not hitting 1.5%. As an example, this year, we're limited to a 5% increase. But there could be a year in there where it would be less than 1.5% according to the county assessor's office or on the state auditor's sheet, and there have been years like that. They still have to pay the 1.5%, but it's a known quantity for them.
Mr. Zer, did you have something to input there?
Simply to remind the council as well as the public that last time you all had the opportunity to hear from the taxing jurisdictions, there were no inputs from the taxing jurisdictions at that time.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I know we've had some great conversations recently with the superintendent as well. Anybody else have anything? You got one? Really? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. This might go more for you. I know that we were going to do the apartments and the retail about the same time, correct? Or was it going to be apartments and then retail?
The development of Kurt Peterson, the development agreement actually requires that those move together. That was another hard negotiating point by people at the table.
Well, and I was curious as to with the incentives for the retail, one, are you already wooing someone to be there? Or the incentive's going to be to help bring them along? Because we don't want just another empty building.
And we don't either, trust me. That's a lot. It's a very expensive building. So.
I'm just curious of what you were looking for.
So it's a little early to be out in the market until we are confident that we're going to have first and second reading approval on things like this public-private partnership. But soon after that, we can really be out there. So Griffin Riley has a lot of experience in the market with retailers and commercial businesses. So they bring that treasure trove of contacts. But we have not been heavy out in the market because you don't want to be kind of a boy that cries wolf, if you know what I mean. Hey, I'm going to have this development. When you get serious with me, to do a term sheet, you just don't do it this early. But soon we'll be doing that because they have a lot of money that will go into this. If it sits empty, they frankly lose money.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, sir. And I assume that concludes staff report?
That concludes staff report, sir.
All right, sir. Well, unless there's some other questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3834, Timber Trails, Chapter 100 Development and Performance Agreement.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3834. Any further discussion? Ms. Abdelgawad.
Just really quickly, I know that we've met on this a few times. This has been quite a project to work out. And so just taking a minute to recognize our staff for their persistence in looking out for what's best for our city, and also the developer for your persistence. And thank you all, everyone who was involved in working together on that process so that we can find a great fit for both of us. Thank you.
Great comment. Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3840 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3840 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Bright Construction LLC for the Johnston Drive Extension Project, City Project Number 23-426-201, in the amount of $497,877, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Murdoch to make a staff report on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bill 3840 is a part of the 2020 general obligation bonds, which will extend Johnston Drive from our outer road to Dean Avenue. Two quick points that I do want to bring to your attention. Number one is that it came in well under budget. That's a good thing. And number two, I did want to call your attention to the actual bids, because you probably noticed that there was a low bidder within this that was not chosen, but they were unresponsive in parts of their application as a part of their bid. And that's why we are going with Bright Construction, who is second there within the bid tabulation sheet that you have within your packet. So I just wanted to make sure that that was brought to your attention here. And that's why the second place is that we're going with Bright Construction in this regard. So we'll get that extension done as a part of the GeoBond project. Happy to answer any questions with this one. That concludes staff report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Murdoch at this time? Yes, Mr. Holman.
Assuming positive passage tonight, looking at construction next year during the construction season?
To be perfectly honest with you, sir, I'd want to check with Mr. Crass as a part of this, but I would anticipate, yes, early next year.
Yeah, I figure the asphalt plants have got, what, a month or so before they start shutting down, maybe two?
It's
two,
yeah.
You probably don't have time to get that in this year, I'm guessing.
Anyone else? There's no further questions. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3840, award of contract for the Johnson Drive extension.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3840. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3825 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3825 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with TRS Total Range Service LLC for the repair and restoration of the Police Department firing range in the amount of $305,800, and to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Murdoch to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Bill 3825 on the firing range essentially completes the circle of all of the things that were needed as a part of the firing range restoration. So we've had the fence, we now have the power getting into that, along with some of the technology enhancement that will go with that, cameras, gates, those kinds of things. And now we actually get to the bill and the solution for the actual firing range itself, which is what you see before you tonight. Again, under budget, which is a good thing. Remember, at your work session, we did talk to you just a little bit about that we'll reorient the firing range just a little bit, so it'll turn just a little bit here as a part of the final projects. And then also keep in mind that we'll continue to look for people to use the firing range, and we have some good leads hopefully coming in the future with that as well. So this will kind of complete all of the repairs necessary for the firing range. Happy to answer any questions on that one, and that concludes staff report, sir.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Murdoch? Yes, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is not supposed to be a negative question, but it may be perceived that way. I'm curious, with the land acquisition and the fence and the the berm and all the, in the classroom and the electricity, and how much have we spent total on this project since, what is it, 2016 maybe we've been working on this? Is that right? And you can always answer this another time.
Yeah, on something like that, I want to be accurate.
Okay, I was thinking of ballpark.
I will get back with the council, most certainly.
I just ask because, well, I know in the past, if I've looked at other jurisdictions' budget things, and I'm like, okay, if you put all this together, we're really looking at $4 million for this thing, where it was spread out, and it seems, and I'm not, and once again, I'm not trying to be negative, because I think this is a great project, but I was just curious. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we've come a long way, right, Roger? I mean, it kind of makes you think twice about retiring with something, that being the former firearms instructor that you were for us.
I'm just curious why it took so long.
Amen. Any further questions of staff? If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Abdel-Gawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3825, award of contract for the firing range repair.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3825. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 8-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3841 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3841 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Dean Avenue Extension right-of-way, second plat, a subdivision of land located in the northwest quarter of Section 32 and the southwest quarter of Section 29, all in Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, the request this evening is for the assembly of the land required for the final plat and the future extension of Dean Avenue South from its current terminus at the end of Raymore Commerce Center 1. We're looking forward to being able to share some exciting news about Raymore Commerce Center 1, but that news has allowed the developer, Van Trust, to begin moving forward with the second phase of their project on the south end. As the council may remember, the property was rezoned to the south in July of this year, and then just a few short meetings ago, the council also approved a reimbursement agreement with MoDOT that will pay for a future, for a portion of this future road, kind of a cost partnership with the developer in that grant application. So the request this evening is just the assembly of the parcels of land or pieces thereof that will constitute future right-of-way for that extension. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this at their August 1st meeting and recommended 8-0 to send it forward with a recommendation of approval. I know Dave Otis and Mason Olson with Olson and Good Otis are in the audience if there are any questions, and that concludes my staff report.
Okay. Thank you, David. Any questions of staff? Yes, Ms. Forster.
Apparently I'm just one to talk tonight. I know whenever this project got brought up, there was concerns about the buses coming out and in right there. So I was curious about the sight lines, like if we had looked into further making that coming from 195th and going north, if right there, the tree line, people were complaining about with adding more traffic and semis, there was concerns about not being able to see them. Has there been any more or additional work brought up to that? Or investigation?
I know with respect, at least kind of two parts, the screening and the trees, that was an item that was resolved through the rezoning of the property and the development agreement. The developer...
That's for protecting, I'm talking about sight lines for the road.
For the road extension. So at that point, the final design has not been completed yet. This is, as you'll see, this is a kind of a wide swath of land.
Sure.
There's an exhibit in your packet that shows the general alignment of the road.
Right.
I do not know if the final designs have been completed to address your concerns. I know the engineer is here this evening to answer any questions with regard to where they're at in that process if you're curious.
Hi, good evening, council members. Mason Olson, 7301 West 133rd Street, Overland Park. As far as your question, Councilor Forrester, we have completed a traffic preliminary analysis of Dean Avenue as it turns at 195th Street. There'll be definitely additional process that we take when we go into design. The construction documents, we have not reached that portion quite yet, but it is something that we look at. We will continue to look at, and I know that as Dean Avenue becomes the more primary road turning into 195th Street. It will alleviate a lot of the sightline issues that currently exist with that T intersection for the sewer.
And I will add, in addition to that, I believe it was presented in the report for the grant, but that grant actually covered 3 separate things. The first item was the traffic signal that the city is doing as part of their project. The other 2 components were Dean Avenue and then also improvements to 195th Street. So there are turn lanes required on that road just by the nature of the Raymore Commerce Center South project, but that grant also helped pay for some improvements and shoulder work to widen that road a little bit, kind of based on some of the concerns relative to traffic that we heard through their rezoning process.
Anyone else have any questions of staff? Is anything else from staff at this point?
Not at this point, sir.
All right. If there are no further questions, and I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3841, the Dean Avenue South Extension right-of-way plat.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3841. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 8-0. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3839 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3839 by title only, an ordinance amending the city traffic engineer's Schedule 3 parking limited or prohibited to establish no parking signs within the city limits of Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. As the council is aware, we presented to you last Monday night staff's recommendation that the deceleration and acceleration lanes that serve the Herald Estates property, they are on the plat as such, being deceleration and acceleration lanes. Unfortunately, there was never signage put up, and that is an item that the council is required to vote on by code to actually, while the action is to put no parking signs up, within the code, what you're actually doing is establishing a no parking area. With this, no parking signs are simply the first step in establishing that. Staff is taking under advisement some of the other items that the council discussed, painting the lanes, possibly painting the curb, and some other actions that could be taken. This would be considered a strong first step so that the police department can actually enforce that no parking area, and staff does recommend approval. That concludes staff report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3839, establishing no parking signs on Kentucky Road.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3839. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 8-0. That concludes new business this evening. We'll now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. All right. Mr. Lovelace? Okay.
Jake Lovelace, Griffin Riley Property Group, 21 Southeast 29th Terrace, Lee Summit, Missouri. I know we've been here a number of different times to speak with you guys. We've done that much more with staff. So I really just wanted to take a minute to thank you guys for participating in this process with us, and also really thank staff for their tireless efforts to get us to this point and to get us over the hump. So thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Jake. We're looking forward to a beautiful project there.
Same here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, and as one other comment I would make is that we are getting to the point on the venue that we're currently finishing up construction on right now, where we're starting to finalize some of the amenities that are happening out there at the project. And we will have some sort of a grand opening event out there here later on this fall, and we would love to have you guys and staff out there to be able to participate in that with us.
Well, I'd love to take a tour of it
Absolutely.
at some point, yeah. That'd be great.
So thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public comments section, and I'll start with the mayor council communication, and I'll start with Mr. Baker this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. First of all, congratulations to Captain Mayberry for that long tenure of service, and congratulations on your endeavors after that. It's quite impressive how long you've been here. Secondly, I wanted to give a shout out to the Arts Commission, to Ms. Harmer. I was at the amphitheater event we had on Friday night. A gentleman I was sitting next to said usually the crowds aren't that big. I think I counted about 80 to 90 people out there, which was, I thought, quite impressive for a night in which it was very warm out there. The group that was playing, the jazz band, did a great job. I think that's an event or a venue that we can make more use of. People who are out there seem to thoroughly enjoy themselves, and it was a good time. So thank you to everything you did setting that up. I know that was a kind of a evening to be very warm out there and all that, but great job with that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Mr. Mayor, I'll keep my comments brief tonight, but I want to definitely make sure I extend a congratulations to Captain Mayberry. Job well done in service to the community and to your career. So again, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Forster.
Thank you. Again, congratulations. We're sad to see you go, but you've earned it. It's always been a pleasure to work with you. So, and I think a lot of people are going to miss being able to call you and know that it's a friendly laugh you always hear whenever. Stern but friendly. I also just wanted to remind everyone about the Mud Run. That's this weekend. It's always a great time. The kids have a blast. And reminder to the parents, bring extra clothes, put shoes that you don't want them to keep, and an extra towel. So it's always a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To add to the Mud Run comments, the first Mud Run people, I think my daughter was a sixth grader, and so now she's a senior, so I think maybe this might be the 6th or 7th year. So I mean, honestly, it was it was really cool. It was, and I also saw Mr. Fairborn in shorts that day, I think. I'm not sure. Oh, no, he had a short sleeve shirt on. That's what it was. No vest. But what I wanted to say is we went back to school today, and we had our convocation. We haven't had one since 2019, where we were the whole staff of the whole district was in the gym together, and it was pretty cool. It was my last year, unless something insane happens. I'm so impressed that you've been with us so long, and I'm looking at my short career compared to that. I'm very impressed with you. But this morning, part of our presentation was they had, I think it was kindergartners from last year, say what their dream job would be. And this is the one that I know you need to hear. One of the young people said, I want to be a police officer that arrests people that cut down trees. And I just thought that was hilarious, and I had to share that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'm going to congratulate Roger, because that's what I've known him by. Predating your time here as chief, believe it or not, early 90s, I was a patrol officer, corporal sergeant at Belton, and he was over here. We watched 58 Highway go from Tulane all the way across Belton and Raymore to the 5-lane that you see now. We watched Walmart close on the Belton side and the new one be built and reopened. Raymore PD probably had its first off-duty jobs there, I'm guessing, or there weren't very many. The old PD and the jail downtown, which probably wouldn't even function as an animal control facility right now. Yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of dirt underneath our feet, and well done, well deserved, sir. Great career. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to congratulate you, Captain Mayberry. Wish you much success. Wish you more success that you had in your last chapter for your next chapter. So have some fun and enjoy. We really appreciate it. I've been in Raymore for 23 years, so it'll be different not having you on the police force, but wish you the best. Mr. Lovelace, again, thanks for coming up and saying a few words. Appreciate you sticking with us and working through this, and it's a win when it's a win-win, and appreciate you seeing the value in Raymore and investing in. I kind of think, I wasn't at the Hawk Ridge concert this weekend because I was moving my daughter into college. So, I'm looking at, hopefully in 4 years, sometimes it takes 5, but you know, that's the kind of place I hope that if she does come back to Raymore, she sees some value and comes back, and there's some opportunity for her to live here. So again, thank you.
Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations, Roger, on your retirement. I don't mean for this to sound mean, but you'll hear my husband's voice coming out of my mouth. That jail that was there when you started working is now at the Historical Society, you know. But he worked there too, so you can throw that right back at him. Just real quick, Jim mentioned at the beginning of the meeting that his favorite time of year is when he gets to present the city budget. And it just kind of caught my ear because this morning in Belton, we also welcomed our entire school staff back for the year. And I shared with them that this is also my favorite time of year, but for an entirely different reason. Sorry, not because I get to see the Raymore City budget, though I do like the presentation. It's always an exciting time of year to see the teachers coming back, to see families and children in the stores buying their school supplies and all of those things. And as a district, just celebrating the successes of our teachers and our students, getting to present them with awards and things as we kick off the school year. It's one of my favorite times of year, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eggert?
Well, I'll be happy to tell you that it's my least favorite time of the year. The ragweeds are in full bloom, the sunflowers in full bloom, and Clarendon, the price keeps going up and up and up, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Roger, thank you very much. I can't even begin to give you enough thanks for everything that you've done during our, I would call it a friendship as well. Above and beyond, and I can't even begin to describe everything that you've done, and I sincerely appreciate that, and that's on behalf of people within Morning View itself. Just for your efforts has just been tremendous, and we sincerely appreciate that. Big thanks to everybody in the staff for making the Timber Trace project look actually. That's exciting. I mean, you get the opportunity to do something like that. And I know all the hard work and the effort that you put into it. Sometimes you walk out of here at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock going, nobody's even going to notice that I worked this hard. Nobody's even going to pay attention to all the efforts that we put into it, when in reality it's just the opposite. We do see those kind of things. And it's proud to be able to say that this is the community that we live in, that are reaping the benefits of all your hard work and effort.
Thank you, Tom. And Roger, more to follow in a couple of weeks at your reception, but congratulations, buddy. You deserve everything that is coming your way in retirement. You got a great family to go home to, and hopefully things work out down there in Texas. And as you commute between the two spots here, because I know you'll have some kids still up this way you'll need to get up and see from time to time. But congratulations on a job well done. A great career, all here in Raymore too. A great Air Force career prior to that, and a true public servant. We appreciate you, we really do. And to everybody in the room this evening, thank you for your indulgence earlier for the moment of silence for Jonah Oswald. I didn't know the young officer, but I knew his chief, and you know, for a 7-man department, it really rocks them when they lose a young officer like that. And it's hard to watch and see. You know, you think in communities like Fairway, something like that couldn't happen, but it does. And it shows you that it could happen here too. And that's why I feel like the investment that we've done with the new range, which will give us an opportunity to do work stress situations as well, along with the computer simulators, and on the firing range will make us better, more prepared for an event like that, and to approach it more cautiously and with a lot of great training. So I'm glad we're moving forward with this project as well. Thank you all for your indulgence this evening. Sir, do we have any reason to go into executive session?
We do, sir. 610021 sub 1 litigation matters.
Thank you, sir. I'd entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we move into executive session for litigation matters.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to move into executive session. Could I please have the roll call?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Forster?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
We will now move into executive session, and when we adjourn from